What would it look like if we did matte or stealth conversion on a Launch Green Rivian R2? Let's find out. This is the Launch Green on the R2. It will come in this glossy, and I think it's beautiful. It actually, if you look at it very closely in a certain light, in this really bright light, there seems to be a little bit of the metallic flakes. But with matte PPF, we're using Avery, Dennison, Supreme Defense PPF matte. We can make it look more dull, but in a sense, a little bit more muted look. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead, we already have the trims removed, and we're gonna be using something called slip solution, right? And we try to explain this because we understand that people who come to our channel may not have ever heard of PPF, and that stands for paint protection film. And what we're doing is we're adding a slip solution that basically just ensures that we can glide our film, right? So what I'm kind of doing is I'm just cleaning it. I will say, having wrapped several R1S, the Fender is significantly smaller than that. Although this car doesn't, it looks smaller in comparison, but it really isn't that small, right? I mean, these are 20-inch wheels. So the Fender is actually quite a small piece, okay? And then we're gonna go ahead and get the film. All right, that was a lot smoother than I anticipated. So you can immediately see how it starts to matte or mute the look of this film. So before we get started, what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna spray some more slip solution underneath the film so that we can make it glide. You hear that? It means that it's not really gliding, okay? So before I even move forward, I'm actually gonna open up the frunk. Okay. Once we open up the frunk, you can kind of see right here how this kind of lines up. So I want to just show you in this particular one, we're actually lining it all the way up. Okay, so I'm just kind of learning this language. It's actually relatively really flat. So look at this. This just kind of lines up right to the edge, right here. And then we're gonna go ahead and use some Tack solution. I'm gonna start with this little corner, or I guess this edge. And then we're gonna go ahead and push this down. And look at that. That looks so cool already. All right, so I got this tacked. And what I'm saying tacked is basically, this is water, or it could also be a mixture of water and alcohol. But when we activate the adhesive, what we're actually doing is we're flushing out the slip solution. And when you flush out the slip solution, it actually activates the adhesive and it grabs more. That's why we call it tack. It tacks into place. So now that we have this side done, what that means is we can actually move this side a little bit more. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and spray this in a little bit more. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of move this around, and look at that. It just kind of moves naturally. Okay, and then look at how it kind of lines up right here at the bottom. That's actually gonna, since I got this down, I'm actually gonna get this bottom corner. Okay, and this one's a easier alignment point. So it kind of just goes right to the bottom of that, right to the edge of that, just like that. Okay. Okay, so when I first do it, I go actually pretty gentle, and then after that, I go a little bit more harder right here. So now that I have this bottom one kind of in place, you can actually start focusing on kind of getting this top part aligned. So we can go ahead and kind of activate this. So once we get to this point, we just need to kind of get to this little corner. So there's actually several ways you can do the corner. If I'm doing a bulk method, we're kind of trying to figure out how this will look like for our kit. So we're kind of experimenting a little bit. So in this case, I kind of want to cover up a little bit more of this edge. So I'm going to go right up to this corner, just like that, right? And now we get this really, some tension right here, but that's okay. And then you get this really nice flat look all the way around. So you can see that I tacked here, tacked this bottom, and then I tacked that corner. And then since we're already here, we're gonna go ahead and just start squeegeeing this down so we can kind of set that in motion. There are some tensions because it's kind of pulling it upwards, that upward motion right here. So we're gonna go ahead and spray some tack, which is basically just water. And then I can start kind of moving this, what we call slip solution, all the way across. Again, very, very flat surface. So relatively pretty easy as far as the install goes. The other thing that I want to mention, again, I know that not everyone is already a PPF installer, so I'm trying to explain the best as I can. I also spray slip solution on the outer surface because when you're squeegeeing, this is basically like a rubber squeegee, and it has a different durometer, which is like the strength of it or like the hardness of it. If you don't have it and it's too abrasive, it can damage the actual film, and we don't want to do that, right? We want as clean of a finish as possible. So I'm kind of like, because it's lubricated, we can actually move this. And I want to show you a couple things that could go wrong in an install like this. And one of them is, look at that little moisture pocket that I developed. I can actually run that. And then I could basically move it, right? So now we got this body line right here, right? And then that's pretty much done for the most part. But I'm gonna go ahead and get some of these right here. Amazing. Okay. All right, so now I know that, I mean, we're probably gonna rip this off for some more R&D, but we created some pockets right here. I really like working with this matte PPF. It's very, very easy. Actually, sorry, I don't want to use the word easy, but it is definitely very pleasant to work with. And basically, you do something called flushing out all these bubbles you see. I'm gonna go ahead and change my, and once you start doing that, we can start going into this, these areas right here. But basically what I'm doing is I flushed it out, as you saw, with the Tack solution. And as I'm doing that, we're actually moving this moisture all across, and then you're gonna just push it down across this edge as well. Why that is important is because there is a trim right here. We're actually going a little bit deeper so that you can really get that coverage. And then especially when you're doing a matte conversion, I like approaching in a very hybrid approach. What I mean by that is, you notice I didn't actually go all the way to the edge here. Why? Well, there's a tight gap right here. I could remove it, I could fold it over, but that costs labor to do that. I need to get someone else. Well, I mean, I can do it, but we don't want to do all this removals if we feel like the ROI or the return of investment is not quite there, and we think in this case it is not for the price point of a kit, right? So of course, if you're a pro shop and then you're doing high volume, this is not a high ROI, but if you are a shop that does low volume, this is definitely an ROI, and you would tell your customers that you will be removing everything to do your install. So again, two different segments, right? But we are gonna have a separate course. I mean, one of the things that we do differently is that we actually build out full courses for you so you can actually do it yourself. If you're wondering, can I do this myself? You certainly can. We make it possible where you can, and we do that by not only providing really cool kits that we design from scans of the car itself, But we also build out full courses, and you get American support, and we have people that can actually support you as you learn how to do something very unique and very new, right? So something like PPF, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and continue to flush this out. This flushing out part is like probably one of the most underrated part about PPF because you're basically just flushing out the soap, and that in itself is really the tacking motion. As you kind of see, as I do this, you can see it kind of like stick, adhere, and that's exactly what's happening right now. And this is actually harder than it looks because you gotta have the discipline to really roll this squeegee across. Okay, so I love it. Honestly, it's pretty sick. But if you're wondering, hey, you haven't done the sides yet, well, typically, I mean, I could fold this over right now, or I could also just kind of let this dry and then fold it over afterwards. But really, what you also want to do is kind of like what I did in all the other edges, you do want to flush this out. So since the door is already open, or not open, but like ready to be open, I'm going to go ahead and really open this. Unfortunately, this isn't really going to stay permanently. So I'm not really too worried about this one, but I'm going to flush this out and then let this dry like so. I mean, if you have enough, I guess like material, the first thing that you want to do is just make sure that you get all this. And the edge is a little bit different. It doesn't just fold over like this. It actually goes like this and tapers in like that. So you could actually use your finger to kind of roll it over, and that's actually a really good method for this particular Fender. I mean, all different cars will be different, but this roll method works really well. Certain areas that don't stick very well, I would highly recommend just kind of spraying a lot more with water as you kind of do this particular motion. Man, that's turned out so good. Yeah, so look at that. So now, look at this edge. Looks perfect, and you really can't tell. It makes it look more like military green once you do this, honestly, right? So that is what a stealth matte conversion will look like on Launch Green. I really like it. You know, whether we're gonna go with this or not, we have to ask the customer, but I feel like once I send this photo, he might be hooked. But if you have any questions about PPF, Rivian R2, or anything else, again, we have a lot of content, so make sure if you are a Rivian owner or just you love EVs and cars, make sure you click on that subscribe button if you like anything to do with films. We'll see you later at the DIY Wrap Club. Peace out.